Hi, Chris. Thank you very much for joining intelliflo Interacts as our latest guest. How are you?
Great to be here, Nick. Thanks for asking me. I'm
Great.
all good, all good.
It's really great to see you, Chris. And we've got a huge amount to get through today. So without any pause for reflection, let's crack on with AI and compliance. What's the model office approach to AI and compliance?
So, I mean, well, Model Office as an entity, if you like, has got three parts to the business. I mean, we work on three tenets to start with. Is probably the best place to start. The first tenet that we work on is integration. Everything has to integrate, and we're not talking about light touch integration. It has to be deep and meaningful, and ideally two-way integration, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little while. And then the next part really is really automation, and that's the bringing in the data, aggregating that data automatically, click of a button stuff, which is great for obviously getting the latest information on all the compliance. I mean, not just compliance, but governance, risk, and compliance areas, and also areas around what the FCA are up to. Where they need help and support, and they are demanding data now on that. And the final piece is self-regulation. What we want to do is empower all firms to be able, at the touch of a button, to self-regulate their business so they know where they stand against all the relevant rules and regulations in one dashboard.
Fantastic. You must work with the regulator pretty closely on all of this.
We do, yeah. So we're in with the FCA on a quarterly basis. I hasten to add, not on a whistleblowing basis. We're there really to make them aware of the work that we're doing, because obviously we're one of the first reg techs to enter the AI space. And they're very keen to look at that, because obviously they've got a big push at the moment with AI, their AI lab and the sandbox and the AI testing and spotlight stuff that they're all up to, which we're involved in. But also we're doing a bit of work around how they can be more savvy. And a good example of that is around, well, a couple of things really: the data information requests, how we can help firms respond better and organize their data in a better way so they can respond quicker and more effectively and efficiently and confidently to
Mhm.
the data information requests. But also looking at what the firms are doing, and the FCA are doing regarding RMAR reporting, which is still a little bit of an issue, because it's not as smooth or streamlined as it should be. So the push there really is to look at how the FCA can offer APIs, like they do on the FCA register, for example, into their Gabriel stroke reg data platform.
Do you get the feeling that the regulator is more open to the possibilities and the opportunities that AI drives?
Really good question. Absolutely. I think the FCA are now definitely view themselves as a data-driven regulator. What does that mean? Well, we were talking earlier on regarding their kind of like their oversight and governance and risk assessment of the sector. And from that side of it, they really are now coming down on the side of data-driven, Dear CEO letters, regulatory requests, and so forth, and less so now on things like Section 166's skilled persons reviews, which is costly to do for them. So they're obviously looking at it from a cost-benefit
Yeah.
exercise, as you can imagine, but they're also looking at how they can encourage the whole industry, sector, profession, if you like, to become truly data-led.
And I think that's really interesting for advice businesses, because if the regulator is serious about this and understand the difference that it can make, that means it's serious and important enough to advice businesses. They can go into this part of the market, their target operating model, if you
Yep.
like, and actually really say, this is something we could and actually really should be doing.
You're right, and you're spot on there. So, and that comes down to, everyone talks about this tech stack, and does
Mm.
it really knit together? And a good starting block for that is the good work that you do and intelliflo do in the kind of like the practice management and CRM space in particular, because that really is the bedrock for any firm who has that, because that's where a lot of the data is held.
Yeah.
So as long as they can start to use that in a unified, streamlined fashion, and as long as the data is available to them and is good quality data, which is another thing we can talk about, and they can get it ideally at the click of one button. I know you do some great
Mhm.
work, for example, regarding strategic MI reporting and things like that. That is now crucial and front and center for these firms to showcase that they're complying. But not only that, if they showcase they're complying, they become a more profitable, valuable, sustainable business. Because the FCA, for example, did a great piece of work, it's still an ongoing piece of work called the Five Conduct Risk Questions.
Mhm.
And it's really focused on the banks, but you can play it back to our sector because they were saying that, look, if you are hitting the base across and you've got the right systems and controls, you've got the right governance and oversight, not only, are you going to become a highly compliant business, but also culturally, you're going to be very attractive to the M&A side of things. And then, of course, the consolidator review has now come through from the FCA. And that one of the key factors of that was the fact that a lot of firms who haven't done it correctly haven't done the governance and risk and compliance controls correctly, and those firms who show good practice have.
So I mean, that's really interesting, and maybe this is a little bit too geeky and going into into the knitting, as it were.
Right.
Chris, I'm really interested if you can talk a little bit about how you ensure that the model office AI insights, the insights that it produces, remain accurate, unbiased, and essentially aligned with what the regulator is looking for.
Yeah, it's a good question. The first thing I'll say on this, Nick, is that the AI is great. There's no doubt about it, and there's the LLMs, the large language models, and all that comes with that. Is incredibly powerful. And before all generative AI was a thing, if you like, we were still doing AI, but it was all deterministic, rules based. So, and that was quite a rigid
Mhm.
model. And what that means is that you would train it through an algorithm to go and find something and bring it back, a bit like a dog with a bone, that type of stuff. So, but now you've got this kind of like wonderful souped up Google tool that will go out, but it's probabilistic, not deterministic. So it will go out and find all the probable solutions, bring it back and present it in a really neat fashion, which is really, as I say, is powerful. Now, the problem that you've got with that is, as you've mentioned, is the bias side of things. You've got things like hallucinations and that type of stuff. And what we use, just be technical and not too nerdy, if you like, is we use what's called retrieval augmented generation tools, which basically means that whatever LLMs that we're using, we use a plethora of LLMs. We use several LLMs. We train it effectively, or we put the rules in there to say, that's probably going off piste. We need to bring it back in. So that's one way that we can do it from that side of it to stop the bias coming in, because that's a principal problem with compliance. You can't afford. You've got to be really rational with compliance. And the other issue that we've got is that we have a principles-based rule book,
Mhm.
which means we've got to effectively think about how compliance officers have got a really tough task in saying, well, here's what the rules are saying, but they're not giving me risk rules or profile rules. They're giving me an idea of what the FCA is saying that they want, and then they're going to come and see what we're up to and how we've interpreted the rules. So that's in it. So what we need to do with our compliance tools, if you like, and AI tools, is get under the bonnet, if you like, of how they're thinking and the decision-making processes that they're making in their business around that area. And the way we do that is through what we call prompt engineering. So that basically means that our developers and engineers you basically develop the AI with prompts on an ongoing basis and then we trial it so that, for example, we can put a vulnerable customers policy through Monitor AI, which is our AI solution, through the audit side of it, and it will then instantly produce an audit on that content of that template. And not only that, it will break it down into its constituent parts, and not only that, it will RAG rate each section and give it an AI guidance. But most importantly, then through the prompt engineering, what we're then doing is giving a human in the loop. So our compliance team will also add in more information tabs. It will look at things like good practice tabs, and it will give resources that will go back into the rule book, the handbook, or it will go into an FCA paper that's relevant and that type of thing. So it gives lots of information very quickly, but the most important thing, you have to put systems and controls around it, to coin a phrase, to make sure it stays on track.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating. And Chris, what you guys do at Model Office, I think you've approached the opportunity of AI and what AI can deliver and make available in a relatively different way from how a lot of vendors think about it in the market.
Mm,
Compliance is clearly such an important part
mm,
of the advice sector. So actually harnessing AI to help deliver some really meaningful add or value add
mm.
is so important.